everyone, and welcome here at the Press Center in Copenhagen for episode number 3 of the ESC Daily Show, a talk show in which the editors of ESC Daily give an overview of the news of what's happening here and discuss it with the world's leading Eurovision experts. Today I have two interesting guests with me. It's Keith Mills.
Hello.
And hi, and Kath here from the Belarusian delegation.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, can you say something about yourself, about what you're doing with this Belarusian delegation?
Okay. Should I be talking to you? Look in the camera. No, what can I say about myself? I'm an Australian who lives in Switzerland, who is working for a Belarusian delegation in Denmark. How that happened is just by luck, but I met them last year at Junior Eurovision. We hit it off, and I find myself here.
Nice. Keith, you're a blogger and all kinds of everything.
Yes.
What do you guys do during Eurovision?
Well, I've run the All Kinds of Everything Eurovision site, the Irish Eurovision site. I've taken it down for the last couple of years because I'm moving house and finished that now, and so I'll be bringing that back during the summer. And this year I'm helping ESC Kath and doing a few interviews, doing a few radio links back to Ireland, and just tweeting my thoughts, watching the rehearsals, and people say, right, that they like to hear my opinions because I've been doing this job for so long, wearing my my original 1995 Eurovision t-shirt today. So I've been around the block at Eurovision for many, many years.
All right, nice. So we'll have two people involved in Eurovision for a long, long time, or at least very much close to the action. Let's see something of that action. Let's take a look at what's happening here over the past few days. Finally, the arena is open for journalists. So here we see people filming the rehearsals. That was not allowed during the first rehearsal round, but now it's open and we can see the magnitude of what's happening there. However, this is Germany rehearsing, and that's today happening. The Big Five and Denmark, the hosting country, those countries are at their first round, so they're not open for press. The doors closed again. This is Jessica Malboy from Australia. She had a press conference. We had an Australian delegation this year, and here we have the press center voting. That's people basically from working here at the press center telling each other who they think will qualify for the final, and we've seen the results so far. So it's all rather close to each other, but Belarus, country from you,
yes,
at the current moment, not in the top 10.
Not in the top 10. He was on the first day of rehearsals. He was in the top 10. So I'm not quite sure what's happened yesterday, whether not enough people met him, because I actually thought his rehearsals were brilliant.
Yes.
At one stage there, he was saying, "I'm sorry," and then the sound dropped out, and the guy said, "Yeah, well, we're sorry too, Tio, but we have to record it again." And he actually bounced back from that quite well and did an incredible performance. So I don't know whether it's the mood people are in. I'm actually trying really hard not to look at that scoreboard because...
Should we take it seriously, Keith, these kinds of votings?
I don't know. I really, really don't know. I mean, to answer Kath's question, I think what's happened yesterday was a lot of songs really came up in the mix yesterday. Countries like Lithuania and Slovenia that you're in the mix with in terms of whether you qualify or not, they are also very good yesterday. So people are going, and everybody's picking 10 songs. And there's in semi-final, in the second semi-final, there's really only one banker, a song that everybody's going to have in there, and that's Greece, I think.
Yes.
And Israel is doing very, very well as well. So those two are probably away from the pack.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're sort of going, well, Annie, pick your eight, because you could be as right as anybody else.
Yeah.
Whether you should take it seriously or not, I'm really not sure. Last year, Georgia, I believe, won one of these and barely limped in over the line in 9th or 10th place in the semi-final and didn't do well in the final. So, you know what we see here in the arena and what people see on television and vote on are two very different things.
It's just a couple of hundred people here, but it's a couple of 100 million people watching and televoting.
Voting,
so yeah, that's very different. What we also saw in the video is the Australian press conference.
Yes,
it was a short clip, so I didn't really get to see it. But there is an Australian delegation this year.
Yes.
Of course, they're not officially participating, but you know, Eurovision's big out there. You're from there. Tell something about it.
Eurovision is big. From a party perspective, it's really big. It's something you do where I think when particular countries are going to give votes out of friendship or loyalty, you have a drink. If there's a certain number of sequins or a lot of silver, you have another drink. If it's overstaged, you have another drink. So it's an opportunity to have a party, but it's got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Is that how you came into contact with Eurovision?
Yeah.
The drink that brought you to Eurovision.
I've lost a lot of brain cells. Yeah, have another drink. And so it actually sort of started almost from in the gay community because it's just so celebrated and revered, but now it's very mainstream. And part of that is Julia Zemiro. She is an Australian TV goddess. She's beautiful, she's hilarious, she's witty, and she makes the show extra special. She's like Graham Norton, but with a different set of genitalia.
Hopefully.
Oh, no, she has.
All right.
And so then you saw that when at the Eurovision, and you came into contact with it.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, seeing it and being a fan is a whole lot different from, you know, where you are now.
Oh, absolutely.
How did it happen?
I now live in Geneva, which is home of the European Broadcasting Union, and I'm a writer and a journalist. And I threw my CV over to them, and I think it was sheer luck that they needed someone to help them out with some other projects. I obviously did okay enough for that, so I was asked to help with Junior. And that was held in Kiev last year, just as Euromaidan was starting. So it was an interesting time to be there, an interesting time to be there with children. So we had to work really hard to make sure that people didn't think we were abusing the children or making them work too hard. And I think that combination of being Australian, being irreverent, and being a mother helped me. And yet, despite all of that, there was a lot of drinking that went on at night. So there was a few nights I didn't go to bed, but it was a good event. And then
Drinking for the kids as well.
Oh no, on behalf of the kids. Yeah. The kids were in bed. The kids were in bed. And then Belarus and I say that as a country, but I met Olga from Belarus because we were trying to get the kids to bed and not succeeding. They were so excited they were running around their hotel room. So for adults it needs dancing and beer. For kids it needs sugar and excitement. So this is actually surprisingly not that different. It's just that you've got much larger scale of everything is 10 times larger, but the same faces, friends that I've met, and that it actually felt very welcoming, and I felt like I belong here. So.
Will Australia feel like they belong here? Because now they have their own. It's the first time they have their own delegation here. How big is that for them?
Yeah, I think it's really big, and it's a very big program for SBS, which started as a very small community channel. This is their biggest rating program. Everyone stops to watch it. And I like to joke too that, let's face it, where Keith's from, I'll say Great Britain, not to offend you, but they sent us, they got rid of us, you know, we're the criminals, we're the convicts, so in a way there is a connection there.
Well, that's what I was down in Melbourne a few years ago, and friends of mine were organising it. It was what I really loved about Eurovision. It was tapping into the different ethnic communities as well as the gay community in Australia. So you had Serbians and Greeks and Irish, and they were all sort of representing their countries at these parties, and it's fantastic.
Got the mini
it's like
Albania
home from home for Eurovision fans. It's incredible.
Well, you think too, Melbourne, where I'm from, has the largest Greek population in the world outside of Greece.
Oh, and that connects to
that
Eurovision
is incredible.
then.
Yeah.
I have one question for you to make a small bridge, because you arrived here late this year, and I've heard that you did that on purpose to deliberately miss the first rehearsal round. Tell me about that.
I deliberately chose to do that because I had been as guilty as a lot of people have been in terms of overjudging the first rehearsals. I mean, if you go back to some of the early rehearsals of some acts, you would have written them off as potential winners. So, for example, Laureen's first rehearsal was absolutely dreadful. It was dreadfully messy, and a lot of people out in Baku had dismissed her, and I was as guilty of that as anybody else. So this year I said, right then, you know what? Give every act the chance to do their first rehearsals. Don't judge them on that. All I'm doing is making a few tweets describing what's going on the first rehearsals, and then judge them on the second rehearsal, because that's when they really should be getting a full package together.
And I actually think that is a really good way to do it, because being there to see Tio in his first rehearsal, you realise how enormous that stage is. And this is a guy from Belarus. He's a seasoned performer in the eastern countries, but to walk out into this huge ship-making hangar, if you like, you could see them all almost shaking, like, oh my God, this is real. That's the first time they've stepped on that stage. They've never seen a crane camera before. They've got earpieces in. It was like a completely different world. I mean, it was a surprise they could even find the stage.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It is the biggest stage that any of those acts would have performed on,
Ever.
because it's an enormous stage. To people at home, just to get a bit of perspective, if you remember the Moscow stage, it's every bit as wide as the Moscow stage. It's probably slightly deeper, and it's twice the height. It is an absolutely enormous performance space.
And it's your job to judge how these countries are going to do over there. And Keith's not the only one. Daniel Gould is a professional gambler at the Eurovision Song Contest. He wants to find out what's going to do well. And he has some thoughts on that, and let's take a look at that.
Well, he's always been one of the outsiders to qualify with bookmakers. I've always had more of a sneaking regard for the song. I think it's something that fans don't really get, but the wider public watching on Thursday night might like it. It is a bit like a Robin Thicke performance, and he had the biggest selling hit of last year. And I think the rehearsals have gone very well for Belarus. It's been incredibly professional. They've been very polished. They know exactly what they're doing, and I think its chances of qualifying have continued to improve during the rehearsal process.
Quite a positive comment from Daniel Gould. What do you think about it?
Look, it was, and I love the fact that they say it's polished and it's professional, because it does look good and it's very toned down, very simple for Belarus. But I would love, and I've spent a lot of energy going, he is not Robin Thicke. And the one thing he said to me was, Robin Thicke didn't invent the black suit and the white shirt, and neither did I. And also, Robin Thicke's song, it's a sleazy song where the women in it are treated so badly. His song, Tio is the one who's being objectified. He's actually breaking up with the girl and saying, don't call me your sweet cheesecake. I'm sick of it, I'm tired of it, I don't want to be treated that way. And so I think that's been completely misconstrued. His video admittedly didn't help. It was a white background, so again that evoked that Robin Thicke comparison. But he's actually saying, I'm not your sweet cheesecake.
Did you want to do something different, on the stage than the video clip? Did you realize that you had to change something?
I think they did. There was enough feedback where it was Robin Thicke, Robin Thicke, Robin Thicke. And there's a couple of little seconds in that video that hinted a few activities that it probably wasn't a great idea to do. And that's not actually who the performer is. Tio is actually he's a real professional, and he's really quite sweet. So I don't think he had much of a say in the video either. Whereas the show on stage, he has worked with Teen, the choreographer. She's from Sweden, and this is his vision as well as hers. He knows it's a fun song, but he doesn't want to sort of put anyone down in it.